now, Kemi Badenoch has today spoken out in favour of the government's new trans guidelines for schools, warning that teaching children they're born in the wrong body is harmful. The Equalities Minister said the worst of the toxic debate over trans rights has been played out in classrooms, and the new guidelines will protect young people and provide clarity for teachers. The guidelines include teachers informing parents if their child wishes to change their gender identity at school, and teachers in England not having to address pupils by their pronouns. Well, joining us now is the CEO of the LGB Alliance, Kate Barker. Kate, this has been a bit of a tug of war in the so-called culture wars of recent years. When is it appropriate for children to begin down medical pathways if they are contemplating changing their gender? And whether it's right for things like gender ideology to be taught in schools and teachers excluding parents from the conversation? What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of worrying things in there. I mean, I think the first thing to say is that teachers are experts in the Norman conquest and conjugating verbs. They're in no way qualified to tell whether a vulnerable child should be diagnosed as being gender dysphoric, and certainly not to suggest what the treatment for that might be. So I think this guidance is going to be massively welcomed by all of the sensible teachers out there. They've been in touch with us and they say it's a complete Wild West. So we're very pleased to see there's a few simple facts laid out, which I think parents need and which teachers need. So we're pleased to see that gender identity ideology is correctly shown as being a contested belief rather than a fact. And for us, we're particularly pleased that there's been a distinction made between young people who are suddenly becoming aware that they may be same-sex attracted and those who are trans, because too often those two are conflated. So we welcome it as an organisation that supports same-sex attracted people. I am really, really worried, and as you mentioned there are some LGBTQ plus lobby groups already that are suggesting that it's absolutely fine for teachers to ignore this guidance, particularly with reference to the part about keeping the parents in the loop. Now, I think if any adult is telling a child that they should keep a secret with another adult who is not their parent, that's a huge red flag. So we're really, really worried about that in particular. But overall, I think it's common sense. I think the tone is moderate. It provides exactly the kind of easy to follow, clear guidance that teachers have been absolutely crying out for. But I think most importantly, it starts from the position of what is going to be best for the child. And there's a few things to think about there as well. There's what's best for the child that is gender questioning, that is vulnerable, and what's best for the rest of the school population. One thing that worries us slightly about the guidance is that it implies that it might be okay to let a child transition in exceptional circumstances. Now, we believe that every child and every parent of that child will think their child is exceptional. So it's going to be very difficult to kind of police within the school. But the issue is, if you've got a school with 1,000 kids and one child decides they want to change their pronouns, the school must then compel 999 other children to collude in the lie that it's possible to change sex. And I think that is a real problem. It cannot be right that a school can, on occasions, teach their children to lie.
Kate, wise words. I agree with a lot of what you've said, and there's no doubt that this guidance is a step in the right direction, but guidance is not an instruction, it's not an order, it's not enforceable, and a lot of some teachers, including the National Education Union, have already said they intend to ignore this guidance and to carry on in certain cases, in some cases, keeping secrets from parents, which I think is wrong. Now, guidance is one thing. Don't you agree, or don't you feel that it would be better all round if there was no room for ignoring this guidance? In other words, making this law that if a kid goes to a school and says, I want to change gender, then the school has to tell the parents, has to tell the mums and dads, because with all due respect to great teachers and great schools, they do not raise children. Mothers and fathers do, parents do. And I think we need more clarity than just guidance. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. We would like to see it firmed up. It's very difficult to regulate around somebody's identity, which isn't necessarily a tangible thing. So I do understand the hesitation to want to kind of jump in with both feet and do that. However, this document is for consultation. So what I'm really hoping is that we see something that's a lot firmer, a lot clearer, and that shows the schools that the direction of travel is firmly against socially transitioning children, but most of all, keeping parents involved. I agree. It's a huge red flag for any school or for any individual to want to keep a secret with a child. It goes against every principle of safeguarding. And if there's any way that can be altered or amended in the guidance, we would support that 100%.
Is the problem today that for a teenager growing up in today's world who might be, as a girl, a tomboy or questioning their sexuality during their puberty, that instead of having the space to do that, they are being pushed constantly down an avenue of questioning their gender, being bombarded with materials online, and actually what that leads to is potential medical interventions that are life-changing, whether that's hormone blockers, surgeries, or even creating these sort of faux atmospheres of pretending someone is a different gender to the one that they are. And actually, this is harmful to kids.
Absolutely. This is an ideology which seeks to medicalise the vulnerabilities of children. And teenagers especially are hugely vulnerable. And we're concerned that young people who are becoming aware that they may be same-sex attracted, they often are, they do feel confused and they do feel worried. And this kind of ideology is like catnip to children who feel like they're outsiders or they don't quite fit in. Because instead of being on the outside, the school will centre you and applaud you and celebrate you. And who wouldn't want that? I mean, it's really, really alluring. And that's not just anecdotal. I mean, we know it's a fact because we can see that, for example, at gender clinics, between 70 and 80% of girls who go to a gender clinic say they are same-sex attracted, because they're, exactly as you said, they're told if they prefer short hair and if they like to play football, and especially if they are attracted to another girl, that means they can't be a girl, that they must therefore be a boy. And we receive many letters as well from parents telling us that, for example, and this is quite a common one, a parent will write to us and say, my daughter is 14, 15. She confided in us that she thought she was a lesbian, and of course we were fine with it. She went to school. A few weeks later, she's come back and announced that she may be non-binary. A few weeks after that, she's come back and said she may be trans. And then she's on the pathway and she's pushing towards transition. And it's the medicalisation. It's a kind of for the school to support any kind of pathway which medicalises children's vulnerabilities. I think it's really wicked.
Could not agree more, Kate. Could not agree more, Kate. Thank you so much. That's Kate Barker, Chief Executive of the LGB Alliance.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the United States.